If you are a startup and you're based in the UK and you have big dreams and you want to raise investment, girl, do not look to the UK. Having this mission can cause problems when they've now gone out to investors, because investors want to make money. They don't give a heck about you want to do good in the world. They want to make money. Emma is just telling the truth. If you want to get to an Emma Grede's level or a Stephen Bartlett level, you're going to have to work on weekends. Hi everyone, welcome to the third episode of the Vanessa Podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa Sanyauke. I'm the founder and CEO of the Hill app and Girls Talk. What we do, we connect women to purpose-led businesses and brands. And yes, I'm back with another solo episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the revamped podcast, but I have one special request, especially if you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please, can you make sure you leave me a 5-star review, because that means more people can find our wonderful community. And if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe, and leave a comment. Get involved in the conversation. I've been doing some A/B testing and following Stephen Bartlett, the GOAT of podcasting. And what he does is he and his team, they test out different ways to get their podcasts more reach. So I was testing out whether Fridays would work for everyone in terms of me giving my take on the latest business news. And I think I'm going to stick with Mondays. So my solo episodes will drop every Monday morning. And this will be live on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. And I've also noticed that I won't be giving updates on myself. So I'm just going to get straight into the business news. And then I'm going to start vlogging. So I'll likely start vlogging every Sunday, where I'll be sharing bits about my journey and what I've been up to and behind the scenes of being a founder in the UK. Well, a global founder who lives in the UK. So without further ado, let's get into this week's news. So finally, Deliveroo has been acquired by US delivery company DoorDash for £2.9 billion. Now, that might seem like a lot, but actually their valuation has gone down since they were listed on the London Stock Exchange. Now, Deliveroo are a food delivery service. They're mainly based in top cities in the UK, so London, Birmingham and Manchester. And they've also expanded to deliver things like not just takeaways, but grocery and pharmacies, etc. So people are actually vexed. They are fuming because it shows that the UK is literally a dead place to do business. Like, why is this UK tech unicorn failing after it's been listed on the London Stock Exchange? And people are questioning now, is it really worth investing in UK businesses? And is it really worth starting a business in the UK? And BBC News gave us the scoop. So they said that DoorDash's offer for Deliveroo values the business at $2.9 billion. And this will create a company that has operations across 40 countries. So both companies are very similar. So DoorDash is huge in the US. It's pretty much in every single state. And it does the same thing that Deliveroo does. So delivers takeaway food, delivers your groceries, can deliver your medicines, etc. However, their fortunes are very, very different. So both are quite similar in terms of they have raised money on the stock exchange. So what that means is when you are a company and you list your shares on the stock exchange, that could be the New York Stock Exchange or the London Stock Exchange, that means the everyday person like you and I, we can invest in that company and buy shares. And it really just takes that company to another level. It really gives them more investment for them to scale and grow. So they both did that. So Deliveroo listed on the London Stock Exchange market and DoorDash did a listing on the New York Stock Exchange. But when Deliveroo listed its shares in London, DoorDash was worth 5 times as much as Deliveroo. And now, 4 years later, DoorDash is worth 35 times as much as Deliveroo. That is unbelievable. And some people say it's not the perfect comparison because DoorDash issued more shares so that they could grow more faster over time. And that really boosted how much it was valued. So the appetite for shares in the US economy was more. But if you were an investor who bought a share in DoorDash, you have seen your value rise, the value of your shares rise by 84%. However, if you were an investor who bought a share in Deliveroo, your shares have dropped 56%. So what this means is that DoorDash is in a better position to take over and dominate the UK market under the Deliveroo brand. And this is quite sad because Deliveroo was up until recently not making any profit and then turned around and was making profit, but it just couldn't scale to the heights that it wanted to. So one of Deliveroo's first backers, Danny Rimmer from Index Ventures, told the BBC back in 2023 that he had regrets. He said that he would have preferred Deliveroo to actually list on the New York Stock Exchange versus the London Stock Exchange because it's just better. You get more valuations. The US is a bit more ambitious and really thinks long term, whereas the UK, as I've said, is very, very mediocre. So it's had a higher valuation for DoorDash. And when you look at business overall, so companies that are listed, right, on the New York Stock Exchange and that are publicly traded, so the 500 largest publicly traded US companies. So we call this, I guess, market the S&P 500. They are worth, on average, 28 times the profit they make in a year. Whereas the largest 100 publicly traded UK companies, so the FTSE 100, they sell for just 12 times their yearly earnings, so less than half. So what do I think about all this, right? People, I have said this so many times. The UK is a broke girl. If you run a business in the UK, I suggest you think beyond the UK. For me personally, a majority of my clients that give me substantial income are not based in the UK. Germany is now my biggest market, and also the DACH region and wider Europe. So I've said this, I think the UK, there's a lot of problems with the UK. The UK is just not ambitious enough. Everyone is risk averse. And it's a blocker in terms of if you are a startup and you're based in the UK and you have big dreams and you want to raise investment, girl, do not look to the UK. It is dry. There's so many blockers. Investors in the UK, they do not want to take risks, right? And they've even had to create initiatives to encourage investors to invest in startups. So we've got what we call in the UK, SEIS and EIS, so the Seed Investment Enterprise Scheme. And essentially what it means is if you are an investor and you invest in a company and say that company goes bust, under the UK tax laws, you can get at least 50% of what you've invested back as tax relief, because people in the UK are so risk adverse. They don't want to invest. They're trying to encourage people to invest in startups. But the problem that means is to become SEIS or EIS compliant, like a business like my business, for example, the Hillat, we had a nightmare getting our SEIS and EIS because there's so many stipulations. You have to be a brand new company and it has to be a really risky business. For example, it can't be like a business industry that you've already worked in before, which I think doesn't make sense. If you want to have the best success, surely you should have experience in being in the industry that you want to work in, not under SEIS or EIS. It's absolutely flawed. And also, if you're a business, you're taxed 25%. There's just no incentive. If you want to have an office spaces, especially in London and even like in other cities like Manchester and Birmingham, it's expensive. There are no inspiring office spaces. There's no buzz. There are no startup hubs. in the UK. Like, I'm going to be real. There's nowhere, I don't think there's been like an ecosystem where I feel like, yeah, this is the place you want to be if you're running a startup, because there are other startups around and you can buzz and share ideas. London is a ghost town. Like, it is very uninspiring for me as a startup founder to be based in the UK. It's just dry as hell. So I'm not surprised Deliveroo, and even when you look at Monzo are, I guess, online fintech banks. So you can open up a Monzo account through your phone, right? 1 in every 4 Brits, or 1 in every 3 Brits even, should have some type of Monzo account. But no, the UK, being the girl that she is, right, has no ambitions to support a Monzo, to make it dominant and grow. It's just, for me, I just feel the UK is very, very, very backward, very dry. So I think if you want to scale big, you need to, despite what's going on and the wahala that is going on in the US is still the place to be. But I also think you should look in Europe. Like I said, Germany is banging. I love Berlin. I love Germany. Other parts of Europe, Amsterdam, France, Portugal, Spain. Look into those countries. And also the Middle East. I've heard the Middle East, places like Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Dubai, Abu Dhabi, I've heard, is the place to be. So if you are a UK-based business, what this means about Deliveroo, and how I don't think we've even had a big tech IPO in the last couple of years. It's just not moving. And because it's not moving, because we don't aspire for great things in the UK. We don't dream big. We're taught to be risk averse. That's a crazy idea. Nobody wants to give it a go. Whereas Americans, as we know, they dream big. They are like, yes, let's go for it. We can do it. Whereas the UK, it's just no, like Destiny's Child. Okay, people. So OpenAI, the company that created and owns ChatGPT, our best friend, has ditched their plan to convert to a profit business. So this is according to the Financial Times. I'm going to give you the scoop on what the Financial Times has reported. So OpenAI, they are abandoning plans to turn itself into a for-profit company. So it keeps the maker of ChatGPT under the control of their non-profit board, after intense critique from Elon Musk. So the AI company, it's been in a big battle over its future that's really pitted the CEO, who's Sam Altman, against one of their co-founders and tech entrepreneur Elon Musk, as well as many former employees who've left, who've raised concerns about it now moving to a for-profit market. So OpenAI, they recently raised funds at a $260 billion valuation. So they raised $6.6 billion US to grow, which is insane. And they said that they were raising investment to simplify a corporate structure and to, unlock and invest more in their tech. But critique said that unless the group's non-profit board retained control, it would move away from its founding mission. So OpenAI says that their founding mission is to really be a tech for good. They want to make AI available for all and to do good things for the world. However, having this mission can cause problems when they've now gone out to investors, because investors want to make money. They don't give a heck about you want to do good in the world and you want to make tech for good. They want to make money. If they're giving you $6.6 billion, they want you to become a multi-trillion-dollar company. And how are you going to do that if you're not thinking about making profit? So because they've now taken money, and they've taken money from companies like Microsoft and also their employees, now they're kind of having to think about how do they navigate this? So when they launched ChatGPT in 2022, they really kind of kickstarted a race in terms of developing AI tools. So they've had to raise billions to remain competitive because companies, as we know, like Google, Microsoft, and Meta, they are hot on their ass, right? They're trying to bring out their own versions of ChatGPT. So OpenAI has had to invest to stay relevant. So the previous structure, it didn't allow investors to take equity stakes for profit, which is not really typical for a tech company like that. So if they are now changing their stance, they've had investors like SoftBank, for example, which SoftBank is a huge investor, it invests in like the massive major tech companies. They have to now think about what to do with this money. So they are still negotiating with Microsoft over the size in stake that Microsoft have in the company. And they're working with advisors to decide, what do we do now? And so they feel that they can complete and get to an agreement with everyone on how to move forward. So that's very interesting. And I'll be keeping an eye on what happens next. What do I think about this? I think it's very interesting. I think what it's going to mean is, I think OpenAI, because they are for good, they're not for profit. For me as a user, I feel more comfortable using ChatGPT because I feel like when you're using ChatGPT, right, you're giving the model and the machines all of your information. So every time you ask ChatGPT a question, you're feeding it data and it's your personal data. So I feel more comfortable giving ChatGPT my data because they are for the good of humanity versus using another tech company's AI platform that they're going to use my data for their own gains. Whereas I know if I'm using ChatGPT, it's for my own gain. So I think in terms of their growth, I think worldwide, ChatGPT has got nothing to worry about. If they double down and communicate with people, they're for good and not for profit angle, because I think they're going to win the hearts of users. I think, though, it is going to mean that there's more competition. So China are really trying to get ahead of the AI race. And you've got companies like Meta and Google who are developing their own software as well. And also Microsoft, even though they are an investor in ChatGPT or OpenAI, they are developing a lot of AI tools as well. So they might even create something that could compete as well. So you've got even Apple as well. I read are looking into developing some type of ChatGPT type model. So I think in terms of making money, it might not be as big as they would have liked. But who knows? Things might change. I think if they stay on track with, as I mentioned, their mission, they could still outperform all of the rivals. I don't know if anyone's heard of this term before, but there's a term around if you're early entry. So OpenAI was first in the game with a lot of generative AI in terms of being an assistant, an AI assistant to the everyday person. So I think because they were early in this space, they were able to dominate. So if they continue to dominate, continue to innovate, I don't see any other company overtaking. I think other companies, they produce enough products already. I don't think trying to take on ChatGPT is their best way forward. I think if you're a business, you need to really double down on what you're really good at rather than trying to compete with something else. In other tech bro news, people, the CEO of Fiverr has come under pressure. The pressure is getting worse. So he has been ousted. He sent a very nasty, not Jamil, email to his employees, basically warning them that AI is coming for their jobs. He says, and I quote, "It does not matter if you are a programmer, a designer, a product manager, a data scientist, or a lawyer, a customer support rep, salesperson, or a finance person. AI, she's coming for you. Period." So I'm going to read exactly what he said. He said this on email. "Hey team, I've always believed in radical candor and despised those who sugarcoat reality to avoid stating the unpleasant truth. The very basis for radical candor is care. You care enough about your friends and colleagues to tell them the truth because you want them to be able to understand it, grow, and succeed. So here is the unpleasant truth. AI is coming for your jobs. Heck, it's coming for my job too. This is a wake-up call. And then he says, it doesn't matter if you are a programmer, blah, blah, blah. I said that before. You must understand what was once considered easy tasks will no longer exist. What was considered hard tasks will be the new easy, and what was considered impossible tasks will be the new hard. If you do not become an exceptional talent at what you do, a master, you will face the need for a career change in a matter of months. I'm not trying to scare you, boy. I'm not talking about your job at Fiverr. I'm talking about your ability to stay in your profession in this industry. Are we all doomed? ? Not all of us, but those who will not wake up and understand the new reality fast are unfortunately doomed. What can we do? He says, first of all, take a moment and let this sink in. Drink a glass of water, scream hard in front of your mirror if it helps you. Now relax. Panic hasn't solved problems for anyone. Let's talk about what would help you become an exceptional talent in your field. Listen, this is a long letter. It's a 4 or 5 page letter full of rubbish. If you want to read it, go on Threads and just search CEO of Fiverr with 2 R's and you'll see this foolishness. It's just too long, but you get the gist. He's basically saying to his employees, you have got to step your game up. You have got to put in the work in. You've got to work harder because AI is going to replace you. First of all, what do I think about this? It sounds like he used ChatGPT, first of all, to write the email, which is quite ironic. But I'm tired of toxic bosses. I'm really, really tired of it. I'm tired of the narrative, especially when it comes at CEO level. If you're a CEO, you are supposed to be working 24 hours. If you are a CEO, or if you are at the C-suite in leadership, you are the ones that should be working day and night. But your employees should not be. If you have an engineer or a product manager or even anybody who's in customer services, they should do their hours and that's it. They don't get paid enough. They're not the ones who are going to benefit financially from your company making billions. So this narrative of, if you want to keep your jobs, you've got to work harder. Working hard does not mean you can keep your job. It's really around, can you survive office politics? It's around, does your manager like you? Can you play the game? It's not about working hard. And CEOs who lie to their employees and tell them this, that is abuse. I think we as humans, we do need to be conscious of the rise in AI, especially as I mentioned in last week's episode that Microsoft said that now 30% of their code is written by AI and that they want to increase that to at least maybe even like 90% of their code will be written by AI. So that means a lot of coders, developers and engineers might be out of a job. But I think we need humans to monitor AI, not replace AI. You can't just leave AI to do everything. AI makes mistakes. So it's around changing the way that we think and being comfortable with utilizing AI. AI is a tool. It's not a replacement. You can only use maybe AI. Say, for example, you're a customer service agent. You can use AI to maybe funnel certain questions or queries from customers so that you get to the customers who really can't have their questions answered by an AI bot quicker. So you make the waiting times on the phone quicker for customers and therefore you're providing a better service. You can't just replace customer service agents with AI bots. That's just not going to work. AI is not a human. They can't understand, the nuances of if a customer has a complex issue. It's only based on what information. It's very much like a robot. So I think this scaremongering has to stop. What it will mean is, okay, a reduction in some roles. Maybe you had 300 customer service agents, and because of some of the questions an AI bot can answer, you might only need 200, but you still need customer service agents. So I think when you are a boss that runs your ship on fear, you're just driving people away and you're actually affecting innovation. No one is going to be creative and think of new ideas if you're scaring people. So I think the CEO of Fiverr is just really, you're going down the wrong road, mate. Really, you're going down the wrong road. And using ChatGPT to write your email, it just ain't a good look for you either. And this also reminds me of Emma Grede. So Emma Grede was a guest on Stephen Bartlett's podcast, The Diary of a CEO. And actually, Emma, she's released her own podcast. It's called Aspire with Emma Grede. If you don't know who Emma Grede is the ultimate girl boss. She is Plaistow, East London born, but made it in Hollywood. And she is the co-founder of multi-billion-dollar brands like Skims, which is co-owned by Kim Kardashian. It's a lingerie and I guess hosiery line. She's the co-founder of Good American Jeans, which is co-owned by Khloe Kardashian. And she's just a girl boss. She's really inspiring. And she got a lot of flack online for when Stephen Bartlett asked her, look, does work-life balance exist? Bearing in mind, this is a woman whose brands are worth, I think combined, maybe like between 4 to 6 billion US dollars. So she knows what it means to be successful, right? She said, if I meet a woman, I'm paraphrasing, show me a woman who says you can have it all and I'll show you a liar. And she got slated on social media. Everyone was like, oh, she's so toxic. You know, I hate people like that. It's easy for her to say that when she's not working hard, and what a toxic boss. And I think, you know what? First of all, I think people have an issue with Emma Grede. She gets a lot of slack online, and I think it's due to a number of things. She's a Black woman who is confident and saying it like it is. And people don't tell me, oh, I don't care if you're green or purple or blue. Yes, you do, Margaret. You do. Because whenever a Black woman in business is confident, says it like she means it, you have an issue. I know if it was a man that said what she had to say, or even a white woman who said what she had to say, she would not get as much vim as she has. Emma is just telling the truth. What is it with people who don't want to know the truth? You cannot be successful if you want to get to her level. And I admit, not everybody wants to be a billionaire or a multi-millionaire. That's fine. But her interview was for people who want to get to her level. So if you want to get to an Emma Grede's level or a Stephen Bartlett level, you're going to have to work on weekends. And she also said something that really stuck with me. You have to respond very quickly to certain things that are serious. So respond very quickly to an email, to a WhatsApp. It could be on weekends. It can be on holiday. And even me, when I'm on holiday, I'm never really on holiday. Every single holiday I have to work. And I'm not even on millionaire level yet. I'm on my way, but I'm not there yet. So even when I get there, you still have to work. I know so many millionaires who work 24/7. They work on holiday. That is what you have to decide as an individual. That if you don't want that, then maybe I'm not saying you can't be a millionaire, but it might be a little bit harder. It might take you a bit more longer to get there. That is the reality. So I think going back to the Fiverr boss, I think it's important to let people know, look, the ish is hitting the fan. The worldwide economy is not doing great. We've still got high inflation. We've still got a madness going on economically because of certain people, right? So it's not a booming economy. So we have to put the work in together. But I just think delivery is really important. And I think it's just maybe people are quite sensitive on these things, or maybe it's just the way that the world is. But I think I agree with Emma Grede. She is 100% right on this. And I think if you're a woman, you have to work twice as hard as the men. If you're a Black woman, we have to work 50 times as hard. And that's the reality. I have to work so much harder than my, counterparts. And I think people just don't want to know the truth. Right, last up in this week's Tech Bro News. I've got my whole episode is just Tech Bro News. Uber and BlackRock, they are now changing their working at home policies and their benefits, and the internet is in uproar. So I'll start off with Uber. According to CNBC, the The Uber CEO told employees, it is what it is. In a heated all-hands meeting after the company announced it would increase its in-office requirements and they would change benefits. So there's been a clash between Uber leadership and employees because Uber is saying, listen, girl, we've had our fun times at home. Get back to the office. So they have come under fire because they've raised its in-office requirement to 3 days a week. So every member of staff has to be in the office from 3 days a week. And they've changed their eligibility for having a month-long paid sabbatical leave. So that's when you can take a month off paid to take a break and do whatever you like. You could have a holiday or go and learn something new and then come back to work. Your job is still going to be there after you take your sabbatical. So what they've done is they've changed it so that from June, it used to be you could get a paid month sabbatical if you had worked at the company for at least 5 years. They're now increasing it to you have to have worked at the company for 8 years. And they've also said that some employees who had previously been approved for remote work, that they would be required to start to come in. So if you had been employed by Uber and your role was 100% remote working, that can change. It's more likely to change and you'll have to come in to the office. And the CEO says, I don't give a heck. I'm willing to take that risk. It is what it is. BlackRock also have come under fire. According to the Financial Times, they are saying that all managing directors have to come back to the office for 5 days a week, aka every single day of the week. BlackRock is an asset manager and they are seeking to boost collaboration amongst employees. They are saying that, look, the pandemic is over and they want everyone to be back in the office. So they are the world's largest asset manager. So essentially they manage a lot of assets. So these can be stocks and shares, investments, money for businesses, funds, individuals. And they said to their staff, so they've got 1,000 managing directors globally, and they've said, look, you guys, you've got to come back into work. They are also tightening their rules and office attendance. So even if you're not a managing director, you still have to come into the office at least 4 days a week. So they've said that they are making this choice because they want to make collaboration better. And they just said, look, when you're leading teams as a managing director, it's better to be there in person. And they have said that if you're a junior member of staff, you can work from home 1 day a week. Their CEO said that he feels that working from home can erode corporate culture, and he's really echoing a lot of Wall Street bosses like Jamie Dimon, is one of the latest Wall Street bosses. He's the CEO of JP Morgan, and he said, look, we need to get everybody back in the office. Okay, what do I think about this? It might be controversial, but I think if you're a managing director, so you probably are on maybe mid 6 figures. So you could be on like 200, 250 grand plus more if you get a bonus. You are paid really well. So I think it's a choice you have to make. I think at that level, if you're paid that much, I think your employer saying you have to be there 5 days a week, that's what the employer says. I think it's a market now that is very hard to find a job. And so I think if you're at that level and you're paid that much, I feel like, yeah, you should be in, or you should be expected to be in 5 days a week. However, if things come up, I think there should be flexibility. So for example, I'm not saying if you're a managing director and your child is sick and you're like, I can't stay at home with my kid because I have to be there in the office 5 days a week. I think it's about language. I think it's important that, yes, you should be expected to be in the office 5 days a week if you're an MD, but there should be flexibility. If you can't come in because you're sick or because you just something's come up, family emergency, and you have to work from home, you have to work from home. But I think setting that expectation is good. And I'll tell you why. I think I found, especially as I have a remote business, so a lot of my freelancers, I've got freelancers based in Nigeria, Bristol. Previously, I had engineers in Serbia and all over the UK. I've got a freelancer in Germany. And I think building a company culture for me has been really challenging because everyone's just based everywhere. And I think when you're in person, you get that buzz, collaboration, those nuanced conversations. Doing it remotely, I just feel it's been very hard to get people engaged and on board and to see my vision. It's been really hard to create company culture. So I get that. I think it's really important to be in the office. My last role that I had in the workplace, I started it during the pandemic, and it was so hard to get started because I wasn't in the office and I couldn't meet certain key stakeholders. I couldn't get a feel of the culture. Everything was online and my career really suffered. So I think there's something that has to be said for that in-person collaboration. It's going up to a MD. And for me, and if you are trying to build your career, having a managing director who decides who gets a promotion, who gets career-changing opportunities, if they see you and you're more visible, you're going to be top of their mind. So being in the office and being able to see your MD and say, oh, hi, can I just pick your brain on something? Or for them to see you and get to build a relationship with you, because in the workplace, it's all about relationships. It's all about trust. It's all about people in high positions trusting you with key projects. If they don't see you, if they don't interact with you, they're not going to really know like how wonderful you are. So instead of you as an employee seeing it as why do I have to come in and that's not fair, just see it as you're investing in your future career. I think it's good for junior employees to be able to work from home 1 day a week, because quite frankly, you don't pay them enough to say to them, look, you've got to be there 5 days a week. It's up to them. Give people the choice. Some people want to climb that corporate ladder and some don't. I think it's just important to be flexible, but I think we have to be realistic. If you are a person in your career, you're ambitious and you've got big goals for yourself, you've got to be seen. If people don't see you, you don't exist. And it's the reality. And I wish someone had told me this when I was coming up. Relationships are key. If people don't see you, if people don't like you, you ain't going nowhere in corporate. Hard work don't get you nowhere. Anyway, I've finished yapping away. That's it from me. I really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Vanessa Podcast. I'm going to be back weekly with my solo episodes, but I'm starting my in-person interviews in the London studio. I'm going to be recording them in June and they will be coming out in July. I'm super excited. Some of the guests that I have, woo, I cannot wait. In the meantime, please share this episode with someone who you think might gain some insight from it. And people, help your girl out, especially my audio community. Please leave me a 5-star review, leave a comment, subscribe on YouTube, leave a comment on my YouTube channel. Let me know what you think about some of the topics. And I'll see you same time next week.